Hey everybody, I thought I'd go ahead and come on and give my testimony. I hadn't really done that yet, so I thought it would be a good idea. I know that before I got out of the occult, it was when I heard the testimonies of other people that actually helped me. There's power in the testimony. Testimony gives us hope. It gives other people hope, and that's a good thing. And I think that God would want us to give our testimony too. Anytime that somebody has a testimony, whether they were healed, whether they were delivered, and saved, that's a miracle. It's something to brag about. It's something. Let's brag on God a little bit here. I was into the paranormal. I was in the paranormal for several years. But it didn't start there. I was always interested in the paranormal when I was a kid. I loved scary movies. Anything that had to do with haunted houses or like demon possession, stuff like that. I love that kind of stuff as far as movies and everything. I remember when I was a kid, we would have sleepovers with other kids, other girls and stuff. And we would always end up playing games like, light as a feather, stiff as a board. We would play things like Mary, Mary, in the bathroom and, in the mirror. Anything like that we could do. We always enjoyed doing stuff like that. And actually, even after I had my kids, I would do that with them too. We would always watch scary movies together. When they had friends over to stay the night, we would do it with them and, watch scary movies with them, and we would laugh, we'd scare each other. It always had this thrilling factor to it, But anyway, I was always interested in it. Well, then, there come a time where my grandmother, which had Alzheimer's, my family needed someone to move in with her and take care of her. Well, I had a nursing background, so, they asked me. And I really wanted to do it. I loved my grandmother, and I wanted to move in with her, so we did that. We moved into her house first. It was me and my husband and my 3 kids. Well, then, after we moved in, we started hearing noises at night. We would hear footsteps. We would hear things being moved around in the kitchen, like somebody was up. We would get up, and there'd be nobody there. Well, the rumor was we, had mentioned it to a couple family members, and they would always tell us, well, that's because Grandpa is watching over Grandma, and he's there, haunting the house. So we just kind of thought, that's probably what it was, because it seemed like whatever it wasn't trying to hurt us. So one night, we heard the noises, and it got so loud, it woke me up. And where I was laying at, we had our bedroom set up in the old family room. We had changed it into like a big master bedroom when we moved in, and the room was separated from the kitchen by sliding glass doors. But we would keep the door open at night because of the air condition. So we, like I said, I was laying there, but I hadn't opened my eyes yet. And I kept hearing the noises, and I thought, oh, wow. So I was so scared to look, though. But I just finally decided to open my eyes and look. And as soon as I heard another noise, I opened my eyes and I looked in there, and I seen the kitchen chair scoot across the floor. So as soon as that happened, I jumped up and I ran out the side door that goes out of the old family room outside. And I was upset, and I was, yelling, and my husband came out there, and he asked me what was wrong, and I told him, what I seen, and I told him, I said, I don't care, I'm moving out, I'm not going to stay here anymore. And he finally calmed me down, and, he told me, he said, Dana, it's probably just your grandpa looking after your grandma, because whatever it is, it's not harming us, it's not trying to hurt us. So I went ahead and I calmed down and I just took it that, okay, maybe it is Grandpa then, you know? So where I was interested in the paranormal at this point in time, this made me even more curious about the afterlife. So this is when I really became curious about it, because I knew that the paranormal is real, and I knew that there was something there. You know, I didn't know, but I wanted to know if it was departed spirits of our dead loved ones. And I really truly believed that that's what it was. So I had went to church since I was a little kid, as far back as I can remember. I grew up I went to a Baptist church for a while. Then I was basically more or less raised in Church of God, Pentecostal churches, you know, things like that. So anyway, but I had never heard no one talk about the paranormal or ghost or any of that stuff. And I certainly didn't study it on my own. I did not get into my Bible and research these answers that I was wanting, these questions that I wanted answered. So I didn't go to my Bible like I should have. So what I did was I got curious and I started going out and doing ghost hunts. I started going to graveyards. I went to, and we'd take pictures, me and my kids, and we would take audio recorders. And actually, the first night we went out, I got a picture of, it was totally like an apparition. I got an EVP on the recorder, and it was, I remember it was the first grave that I was standing at, and I started asking questions. And when I said, "What is your name?" clear as day, you could hear a voice say, "Frank." So, this was something that was just awesome to me. I thought that was really cool. And me and my one of my kids went back the next day because I remembered where we started at when we was in that graveyard that night. And we went there because I wanted to see the gravestone, and I wanted to see if it really was, the name Frank on the gravestone. So me and my daughter, we went there the next day and we looked. And sure enough, the name on that gravestone was Frank. So, this was only stuff, every time we would, see something paranormal, or we'd get EVPs or anything like that, it would just draw us in closer and closer into the paranormal. And it really just fueled my passion for the paranormal. So the more things happened, the more addicted I got to going out ghost hunting and stuff like that. Well, then finally, my grandmother, I had her for 5 years. Actually, I ended up moving out of her house and we bought our own place, and she moved in with us. And we was there probably 6 months or less, and she passed away. God rest her soul. It's one of the most, how do I say this, most gratifying job a person can have is taking care of a loved one like that and spending time with them, before they do pass on. So it was an experience, just taking care of her and everything. And I'm always happy that I did get to do that. So, anyway, after she passed on, I had more time, and I got a regular job. And then on my spare time, we really got into the ghost hunts. And I went And I was online. I got my first computer. I got online and everything, and I found another group. Actually, I think it was, I found an ad on Craigslist, and somebody had a paranormal team, and they were looking for investigators. And I answered the ad, and I talked to the man that had the other team, and everything, went really well. He wanted me to start on his team, and so we set it up, and we started doing ghost hunts with this other team. I ended up being the general manager of the team. We went to do a lot of investigations. We would go out of state in people's homes, that had paranormal activity. And we would do, ghost hunts and investigations, like I said, out of state and stuff. And then we would go to commercial sites that were rumored to be haunted, and we would do those. We would go to places like Casadega Spiritualist Camp. We would go in there. We had different buildings there. We had permission, we had to go to the town meeting and get permission. And then we would go to places like the Titusville Playhouse, all kinds of different places, and we would stay overnight and things like that. But it was a lot of fun. Okay. Now, I really enjoyed doing it. Well, I started really getting into it pretty heavy. We had me and this other guy. I'll just leave it at this. We had some differences. So me and my daughter decided, well, we'll just start our own team. Well, by this time, I had already started getting up my own equipment and, things like that. So I started my own team and started recruiting people. And we ended up doing some investigations on our own. I still did a few more investigations with this other gentleman and his team. It wasn't like we had any kind of big disagreements, nothing huge, but, I just wanted to have my own team. And the differences that we did have was enough that I wanted to move on, like I said, to have my own group. So anyway, one night we went and did an investigation with this other team, and it was a man that, had been thrown against the wall a few times, and he was physically attacked by spirits. So the guy, the last time he was thrown, it hurt his back. So he went to the emergency room. He told the doctor there what happened. Well, the doctor, of course, didn't believe him. So the doctor went ahead and set him up. He sent him over to a place called Circles of Care, which is a mental health facility. And he sent him there for psychological evaluation and observation. Well, he was there for a week. And while he was there, he had mentioned what happened to one of the nurses. And the nurse actually believed him. And the nurse was also into the paranormal. So this nurse had a business card of another friend of ours that had another team. And, she told him and gave him the card, and he called her. Well, she had too many cases at the time, and she couldn't take his case. So she called all of us. So we set it all up and to go over there and do the investigation after he got out of the hospital the next week. And before that, though, a few of the team members went over to the house and did a preliminary investigation. They got a feel for what was going on. They, took down everybody's information and any other kind of information that would help us to be able to, with our investigation. So when they went over there, though, they did put out a couple audio recorders. and, tried to see if they could catch anything, while they were there. Well, sure enough, they ended up getting some EVPs, and the EVPs were nasty EVPs. They were yelling, get out now, all of you. And there were several EVPs on there that was, like that. And then while they were there was a young girl that lived in the home. And when I say young, she was probably about 17. And she was best friends with the guy that the one that was getting thrown. And she would start talking to this spirit of a little girl, so-called. And when she did, she started manifesting as if she was channeling this spirit. And she started sobbing and acting like she was being abused by her father. And she went into the closet in one of the bedrooms, and she was in there, and she was crying and, and all this. So anyway, they had that information. So, which was actually kind of confusing, because we're thinking, okay, if this is a spirit of a little girl, why would it be attacking a man? And especially with the kind of strength that we heard that, it had. So we went to do the investigation the next week, and it just so happens while we were there, well, there wasn't much going on that night. There was we had a few things happen, nothing major, but the guy finally asked us, he says, do you want me to go into the house with you when you do one of your sessions? And I can, he said, whatever it is, it doesn't like me. So maybe it'll do something, because, this guy, you got to realize he was in a position where no one believed him. And he was actually being physically attacked. And it was very frustrating to him, as like the week before that, when he went to the hospital and he was hurt, the doctor put him in a mental hospital. So, he was frustrated, So anyway, so we went ahead and let him come in there with us. I mean, after all, he pretty much lived there. So he went in there with us, me and my daughter, and the gentleman that, was being attacked. He went in there with us. And then I had another team member that was there. And us four went into the room, and we had our monitoring station out on the front porch. And the other investigators and the other family members were out there watching on the monitor, what was going on while we were doing the dowsing rod session. So me and my daughter was sitting on the bed, and I was recording with my handheld camcorder, and my friend was asking questions and using the dowsing rods. And he was asking the spirit questions by saying, are you afraid of Dawn? I bet you are. And then he would say, why don't you come out and I can do, kick your, blah, blah, blah. He was trying to provoke this spirit to do something. And finally, the young man, he said, you're scared, you're scared. He was also trying to provoke it. Well, about that time, my friend asked again. He says, so you are afraid of Dawn, aren't you? And about that time, the dowsing rods opened up as they were answering no, opened up, and all of a sudden, literally out of nowhere, this guy was thrown against the wall so hard, it sounded like something outside hit the house, like a car. I mean, it was loud. We hurried up and turned the light on, and we seen him, instead of facing us like he was literally turned around, laid on the ground up against the wall, and it was catty-cornered with a file cabinet. The file cabinet had a big dent in it where his head hit the file cabinet, and he appeared to be knocked out. And we were talking to him, and, are you okay? Are you okay? And finally he come around, and he just started crying. And by this time, we were yelling and asking everybody to come in because we thought he was hurt bad. So they came in, everybody else. Well, come to find out, the reason it took them a few minutes to come in, the grandmother, which was sitting on the front porch watching the monitor, when he was thrown, she was thrown off the front porch at the same time. So, we had all this happen. And to make a long story short, after all this happened, I had the footage on my camcorder. So I would go to paranormal conventions and stuff, and I would show the footage because it was quite some evidence there, And the guy, they ended up moving, the family did. So I lost contact with them. And like I said, I would go to the conventions and stuff and I would show footage. But at this time, I never was drove away from the paranormal. This only fueled my, passion for it even more. I wasn't really, I was afraid because it was like I knew then what it could do, but I was still blind to what was really going on and what these spirits were. But since this spirit kept saying that it was a spirit of a little girl, it really just something was telling me that these spirits were always lying and that it was actually demons. And I had my brother tell me a few times, he said, Dana, he said, these spirits that you're talking to are not ghosts. They are truly demons. He said, the Bible says that when we die, we're no longer here. We either go to heaven or to hell right away. There's no limbo. We're not going to be here on earth, earthbound. We don't get stuck here. So I didn't believe him. He tried to even show me Bible verses, but I didn't want to believe that. To be honest, I didn't want it to ruin my fun. I loved doing what I was doing and I didn't want to hear it. So if anybody else would tell me anything like that too, I would get upset, So anyway, finally, after a couple more years after that case, my family, we started getting a lot of stuff happening in our home. Well, it was stuff that was like mild, but then it kept getting worse and worse. And my husband, he had what seemed to be a spirit of a woman with long red hair that came to him in his dreams. And he said that she was, attractive, but it was like she was trying to seduce him. And he told me about it. Well, then I told him, I'm like, be careful, that could be something, demonic. So, finally, he started questioning this. I had went on another investigation after he told me this, and it was so odd, but another woman that had just started on my team, just out of nowhere, she started talking to me while we were at this other investigation and told me that her husband had just started having a redhead female, long red hair, that was coming to him in his dreams. And I didn't mention it to her about what, that was going on with my husband, but I was so shocked. I was like, that's a heck of a coincidence. So when I went home, I told my husband about what she had told me. Well, he thought that since the woman had came to our house, and before this, because I would have people over and we would look at evidence on videos, and we would have, what we'd do is we'd have evidence review meetings at my house. I would always we'd cook dishes and we would get together and have a little get-togethers and go over our evidence at our previous investigations. So she had already came to our house, and he thought that it was a spirit that was, attached to her, and she brought it into our home, and it now attached to my husband. So I was thinking, okay, it was either that or maybe the spirit from the other guy at the other investigation. Maybe it was what was going on in my house and why we were having things happen. It's confusing, but it was just, we didn't know why this was happening. Well, finally, once he started figuring out that, wait, this is probably demonic, and started questioning it himself, well, finally, the spirit started getting violent with him. And one night it came to him and it attacked him. Well, when it did, he woke up and he grabbed his rosary beads, because since all this stuff was going on in my house, I had put rosary beads over all my doors and windows. I put Bibles in all my rooms. I mean, even in the closets. I had Bibles open like that was going to do anything. But I had them all open all through the house and everything. Well, anyway, he had those rosary beads on, and he took it off and he started yelling, "In the name of Jesus, get out of my house." Well, when he did that, the rosary beads just popped right in midair. And I mean, beads went all over the room. And it finally stopped, though. It finally did calm down. And after it calmed, it calmed down and everything started, calm down that night. He noticed that he actually had bite marks in his groin area. And it was like, it was definitely something. It was demonic. And it just got so bad. Well, I didn't know what to do. I mean, I was doing everything I could, everything that I had learned in the paranormal community about, getting rid of these spirits. I mean, I did burning sage. I put up the rosary beads. I put Bibles in all my rooms and everything. Well, finally, it had got so bad. One night I had bought an audio book. It was Chip Ingram, Invisible War. And I put it it was on my laptop. And we went to bed at night and I would let it play. Well, it had prayers on it, also. So I would let the prayers play. And what happened was one night we was laying there and I was letting it play. And I guess my husband felt this presence come into the room, and he felt it come next to him on the bed. And right away, he realized that the prayers were playing on the laptop. So he decided to start saying the prayers as the recorder was saying it, the laptop, he figured that he would follow along. And soon as he started praying, our fan that was in my room flew across the room into the wall. And that woke me up. And about that time, he grabbed my shoulder and he said, Dana, shut that off. Whatever it is, it don't like that. And I said, I don't care what it don't like. So, we were both, right now, get out of my house in the name of Jesus. And we would do this. Well, every time we did that, it would stop. But you see, it would always return again, another night. So, but I couldn't figure out why. It just seemed like nothing was working to get rid of it. So finally, we were in my living room one night, and my grandson was in my bedroom on the bed watching TV. Well, he got quiet in there, and I thought, well, I'll check on him. So I looked around the corner into my room, and I seen him sitting up on the bed, and he was looking at the foot of the bed like he was afraid, like like he acted like he'd seen a ghost. And I walked in and I said, "What's the matter, Pa?" And he just looked at me and I said, "What is it?" And he said, "I don't know. I seen something." And I said, "What was it?" And he said, "I don't know." He said, "Maybe a monster or something." And I said, "There ain't no such thing as no monster." I said, I don't see no monster. Where's the monster at? And he jumped off the bed and he said, I don't know. And he looked around and he put his hand across the floor and he said, I don't know. It went in the floor or something. Well, when he did that, I knew that whatever it was in my house, now was showing itself to him. He was only like 3 or 4. He was really young. And I got so angry about it. And I'm like, you know what? This thing is messing with us, but now it's going to start messing with my grandson. That was it. I mean, I at that point I was so desperate. I was it was at the worst right there. And so I told my husband, I said, see, I had started listening to some ministers on Blog Talk Radio. And I had heard them talking about, the casting out demons and stuff. And when I listened to this stuff, they also talked a lot about God's word. And I was hearing it. And I started like looking up verses and stuff. So I was getting curious. And I was learning more and more. So I thought, you know what? My husband probably has an attachment. And we need to take him to, a church and get him delivered. So I told my husband, I said, okay, we're going to go to church this Sunday. And we're going to talk to, someone about getting you delivered. So he agreed because, at that point, like I said, we were so desperate. So finally, we went that Sunday. And after church was over, we decided to go to the front and talk to, the minister. Well, we went up there, and it just so happens at that church, you can't talk to the minister, the pastor, after church because he's busy. They actually have 3 services back to back at that church. So what we did was we talked to the assistant pastor. He was also a prayer counselor. So we talked to him, and I told him, I said, we've got spirits in my house, and they're tormenting us, and they're tormenting my husband, and I think he's got an attachment. I said, I did an investigation at this one house, and I started telling him about this, and he said, wait a minute, what are you saying? Are you? And I said, well, I'm a paranormal investigator, and I think that a spirit, came from another investigation and attached to my husband. He said, oh, honey, you got to stop doing what you're doing. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, that's the occult. He said, that's what's given these spirits legal rights. That's probably why you're having this stuff happen. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. Well, I just, before I never would have believed that. But at this point, I was so desperate. And it was almost like God was showing me, it was almost like he was opening my eyes. And all of a sudden, it was just like it really totally just rang truth with me. And I thought, gosh, okay, well, okay, then he's probably right, So he looked over and he noticed that my husband had on a rosary bead necklace. And he asked my husband, he said, why do you have that on? And my husband told him, he said, well, for protection. And I told the minister, I told him, I said, I have those in my house through all on the windows and, over the doors. And I have Bibles in every room. And he told my husband, he said, please take it off. And my husband took it off and he says, okay. And he says, well, just put it in your pocket or something. So my husband put it in his pocket. And we asked him why. And he says, when you take your faith and you put it in an object, you're taking your faith off Jesus. He said, you need to have faith in Jesus and in Jesus alone. And I don't know what it was, but at that moment, my eyes were open. I finally figured it out, that it made sense. It was like, here we were trying, I tried sage, I tried all this other stuff. I tried everything. But nothing else worked. I even tried the name of Jesus, okay? But I was always holding up the rosary beads. And then I would go right back to the paranormal stuff. You can yell the name of Jesus all day long, but if you're doing ghost hunts and you're dabbling in the occult, you're leaving God's umbrella of protection. Those things have recompense that come with it, no matter what. You can pray prayers of protection when you go to these ghost hunts and things, but you're not going to be protected. As long as you are doing these things, they come with a price. And there's no amount of prayer. You can't take away, how do I say this? The bad that comes with it just because you prayed. If you're still going to keep doing it, you know what I mean? God knows your heart. And if you're not willing to give it up and truly repent of it, God's not gonna. You're still not gonna be protected from what it reaps. So this is just something that I learned, and it's from that day forward, my eyes were totally open to the paranormal and to everything that comes with it, and that it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I have a holy hatred for it right now. I finally learned what it was all about, and I don't want no more part of it. I see what it does to other people. I see people that dabble with it, and they have all kind of things happen in their families and in their lives, and it's just, and they don't understand that, these things bring curses on us, and they also bring curses to your children too, up to like the third and fourth generation. So, God is so good. God is so good, and He took that passion I had for the paranormal out of my heart. Even at Halloween time and times like that used to be my time of year, okay? But now it's like when I go into a store and see the things up, Halloween stuff and everything, it breaks my heart. I mean, I truly see it for what it is. It's nothing but a representation of death and evil, and it's like the kids don't know that. It's so sad. It really is. But the thing about it is, we have to have faith in Jesus and in Jesus alone. And we have to turn our backs against the enemy and against wickedness and sin and turn towards God. We must submit to God in total submission, not just halfway. We can't give Him half of our life and expect total blessings. We have to be able to give it all to Him. So I really pray that my testimony helps other people. I really, really do. Years ago when all this was going on, I listened to other people's testimonies. Laura Maxwell is one of them. She really, really went through something with it, and she actually ended up losing her mother. But it's a quite a powerful testimony. I actually suggest that people listen to it if they can. I really do. Anybody that's in the occult and they're thinking about getting out of it, I suggest you listen to that. Just look it up. Look up other testimonies too on the subject. There's power in the testimony, guys. And you know what? To God be all the glory. I praise God every day, that I got out of it, and that I want to help other people. So anyway, God bless you guys, and you have a good year. All right, bye-bye.